Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Jayson.
And tonight we're going to do a watch party for the first 3 episodes of X-Men 97. Why the first 3 episodes? Because that's all we have so far. And because it's a good round number for, well, not round, it's 3. But it's a good amount of time for what we usually do for Friday watch parties. Typically when we do an animated show, we'll do 4 or 5 episodes. And these are 32, 33 minutes instead of your average 22, so they get an extra 10 minutes streaming on Disney Plus, which is pretty cool and gives it a different sense of pacing.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of appreciating, but we'll talk about that as we get into it. We kicked around doing how we felt about, actually we were planning on doing how we felt about last week on the first 2 episodes when they dropped on Wednesday. We watched it right away. We watched it that afternoon. We were really excited about this. I don't want to speak for you, but we've talked about this. In our opinion, doesn't disappoint. We really enjoyed this. We are definitely on the bandwagon with this. It seems to be really grabbing people, and a lot of people seem really happy about it. So if you think that this show is kind of overrated and not worth the hype, we are not there with you. We've really been enjoying it a lot. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch it with you and chat about it as we're going. But anyway, the reason we ended up not doing that last week was it was kind of hard just to find a good place to put it with everything else we were doing that week and that weekend. So we thought, well, why don't we just wait until the next one comes out and then go ahead and do one of these commentary streams.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. I called this a watch party because it'll be kind of loose. It's a brand new thing. But we are actually a lot more prepared for this than we usually are for watch parties. I usually call it that. That's maybe like a somewhat confusing title. But then, I wanted to separate it from like the rewind commentaries.
Right.
You know what I mean? But often we do these blind, and this will not be blind. We have actually watched all 3 episodes, and we've both watched all 3 episodes twice, I do believe. Or maybe, no, you only watched them once.
I have only watched them once.
Okay, and I watched through them again on my own. I forgot you were busy with something else and not doing that. But I know you had a lot to say, and I'm sure you'll remember most of what we were talking about last week with it.
Yeah,
so.
and I mean, it'll come to mind when we watch them again this stream.
Yeah, so anyway, we are gonna watch it. We're gonna turn it on here in a minute. Of course, the only way to watch this is on Disney Plus. I am hoping this gets a physical release down the road. There is some precedent for that now with a couple of the more popular Disney Plus shows, at least for steelbooks. We got a steelbook for, I haven't bought it, but they put out a steelbook, I should say, for WandaVision, and I think maybe one or two other things. I know Mandalorian got one, so there's precedent with Disney Plus now.
I think most of the Marvel series did actually, because I think there's one for Loki season 1. And,
is there? I haven't seen anything for
Soldier.
I haven't seen anything for Hawkeye though.
I don't know.
So, but anyway, hopefully that happens with this, and people can watch it that don't care about Disney Plus, but are interested in this, because, again, the hype has been kind of real on this, and this is the first thing in a while that people that are outside of Disney Plus have been kind of tempted to come back to it and watch. I know Dan Torrey, who did a commentary with Jayson and I a couple weeks ago, we did a blind commentary on the last 5 episodes of season 5 leading up to this, in anticipation for this, and Dan had to resubscribe to Disney Plus in order to do that with us, and he hung on to it to watch this, and told me he also enjoyed it, although I don't think he liked it as much as we seem to.
Yeah.
But anyway, are you ready to get into it?
Yeah, I am.
Before we start, let me just ask you, Jayson, what do you think is the most exciting aspect of this?
I mean, the most exciting thing, at least, like, for these first 3 episodes are, the intro, and also just, we get the fact that we're getting new stuff with this same, like, design of these characters, because the big thing with that original series was the designs, and getting to see those with new stuff is cool.
Yeah, but I know you were unsure and apprehensive about it, like I was, until we got a trailer.
Yeah.
So, like, just the designs themselves aren't necessarily exciting if the show doesn't live up to it, right?
Right.
If it doesn't feel authentic enough. And I should say that, sorry, go ahead.
And I think it does.
Overall, I think it does too.
Yeah.
And I think it like surprisingly carves out its own tone a little bit and becomes its own thing while simultaneously being authentic to both the tone and feel of that show and also the I forget where I was going. I forget what I was going to say. It's late. We're gonna try to get a second win here. It's not that late, but it feels late right now.
Yeah,
I don't know. Jason and I have been
Yeah.
busy today. We've had kind of a day already, so.
But yeah, it has a good middle between being kind of its own show and also having sort of the same feel of the original show, which I really like about it. And
Yeah,
I was
and it's a thing
hoping that it was going to be.
It's a thing I've been having a hard time articulating.
Yeah.
Where it's like I want it to be authentic, but it also is impressively like grown up a little bit too.
Yeah,
Where like
that's
it's updated in all the right ways. And it's one of the very few so far. I mean, we only have the first 3 episodes. I wish this all dropped at once. It is pretty bingeable.
Yeah.
Even though the episodes so far have, just like the old show, at least with multi-parters and singular episodes, because that show has a lot of multi-parters, and this, they're long enough that so far we haven't had to do that, so they've all been standalone, but there's still an ongoing story happening. It's really bingeable, and I want to watch it all together, and I really wish that they had put it out that way in the first place.
And I mean, that's how I watched the original show, was like I watched like a bunch of it at a time.
So I'm impatient waiting on this.
Yeah, me too.
That's kind of driving me a little bit crazy. If it was anything else or a lot of other things, I would probably wait till it all dropped. This is the first thing in a long time where I can't wait for the next one to come out. Mm-hmm. And I have to watch it when it drops.
Yeah.
At least so far, unless we get one that just really drops the ball, and then I don't find myself quite as stoked and excited to look at the next one. But so far I've had that. Tom put in a couple of super chats. I'll just read them real quick. $2 super chat. I don't know what he's talking about, but he says 3 is round. It's one of the 5 round numbers. 09368. I don't know what that means. I just mean even as opposed to odd is all I meant. And Tom, $2 super chat. So like Justice League to Justice League Unlimited. Well, not really, because there wasn't any time in between them. I mean,
Right.
I can see you saying that in that one of them. I think maybe I understand what he's talking about. Where one of them seems a little bit more adult, or at least the storytelling gets a little bit more sophisticated.
Yeah.
But this is different in that it's a reunion show that's made for the kids that grew up with it now that they're adults as adults. And again, it's a tough line to walk, where you still have to be that show, but you have to. And this is the thing I didn't think it could possibly nail, and so far I think it has, or at least as close as it possibly could, where it is, again, for the kids that grew up with it, updated in such a way where it's acknowledging that it knows that it's mostly like 30 and 40-year-olds that are going to watch this and care about it. Mm-hmm. At the same time, it seems to be bringing in new fans. Like, I think they did a decent job somehow of making it also watchable if you've not seen the original show. Or at least it seems to be that way. It's hard for me to say because I know that material some.
Right.
So there are, especially when you get to the 3rd episode, there are things coming up that if you've not seen the original show, you might be a little bit lost on.
Yeah.
It is kind of recappy. It does do that comic book thing where occasionally a character will interrupt everything to explain something that happened before in case you missed it. Mm-hmm. In kind of like almost breaking the fourth wall, like forced dialogue just for the audience kind of way. But again, it gets away with it because the old show would kind of do that sort of thing sometimes too.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just impressive that it can still more or less be a thing that feels like it kind of could have come out in the 90s, at least if censorship wasn't an issue. We'll talk about all this as we watch it.
Right.
But is updated in all the ways it needs to be so that it doesn't feel like forced and inauthentic in trying to be a 90s show again. And the best comparisons that I've been able to make with this, as far as like reunion things or decades later sequels that have worked well is the Power Ranger special from last year. Mm-hmm. It reminds me a lot of that. And then the one I thought of today is, in its way, it's kind of like Sonic Mania.
I can see that, yeah.
Do you know what I mean when I say that?
I wasn't even thinking about that, but yeah.
It's like you come back and you make a thing that feels like it's of that era, and people would think of as a retro thing, even though it's made now.
Yeah.
But is updated in all the right ways. Where, like, that game is bigger, there's more modes, there's more stuff to do. It's not, like, challenging in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
This is kind of the animated equivalent of that.
Yeah,
and
this
accomplishes... Let me say this real quick, too, before we start. I'm glad I'm getting all this out now so that we can respond more to what we're seeing.
Yeah.
But it accomplishes, I think, what the return reunion seasons of Young Justice kind of attempted and failed at for people. I didn't watch all of that, but people seemed not real impressed with that. This kind of worked out more with that. Jar Jar Ed, I have just one question, Cap. Did they do Rogue dirty? So I'm gonna say verdict is out on that until I have the whole season, and I think it kind of just depends on how you feel about that character, what you want to see from that character, and I will admit that there's a lot of the Claremont run that I have not read, and I don't know how much of some of the weird stuff comes from that.
Yeah.
What we're doing with Rogue and Magneto, I don't know where that comes from.
I don't know what's happening.
I don't know if they did that themselves, or I suspect there's something in the comics with that, and I just am not familiar with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody in the comments can tell us as we're going.
And...
We'll get started in just a second.
I don't really like... You have gotten used to her voice. I have not, and I don't
Rogue's
think
voice?
I will.
And that's the same actress.
Yeah, she just sounds older.
She's just older, yeah.
She doesn't...
Well, we'll talk about voices and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to come up a lot. We'll try not to make the whole commentary about that. But I'm glad we did a little bit longer of a preamble, just because we've got a bigger crowd now. So everybody will be able to start with us as we begin here. Okay, so you got the clock there, and you can sync up with us in case you need that. Everybody get ready to press play, and we're just about to do it. This very exciting intro. Here we go. Let me get my sound set up properly. And away we go. Everybody, please press play right now. Okay, Jason. Okay. What comments do you have about the new but very much as it was before intro? I'm gonna let you talk through the entire intro. Go
ahead. This is, like I said earlier, the most exciting part of the show. I was super happy when I saw this, because they do it really well, and they put in the new stuff that wasn't in the old intro. Like, they make that fit really well. Like the stuff with Bishop and stuff, and putting Bishop and Morph in the intro. And they just did a really good job at, like, reanimated all the stuff.
Are all of the... Besides Morph here and the Sinister laugh, which I love.
Yeah.
That's the thing they would have done. Besides that, is everything else in this first intro all recreated scenes? Or is the Rogue thing when she's spinning around, is that new? I couldn't remember if that was part of the original intro.
I think that's new.
Okay.
There's like one or two scenes that are new, but there is like the storm thing in that like room.
We audibly cheered with the second intro,
yes,
and we'll get to that. But when we full on spoilers with this, when we get into like Magneto's credit at the beginning, we just lost our minds.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
It looks really cool.
Call me a fanboy. That was so cool. Just to get to see that in the intro. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense with leaving the Magneto army and the Professor X army coming at each other.
I don't
at
really
the end.
know why they
We're
did
still doing that. I thought we might have changed that up, but I don't know what it would have been, because
Maybe
So
just don't have them at all. Like I don't know.
The producers of this are talking about it like Sinister is supposed to be the big bad for the season, which is weird because so far he's just showed up in the third episode and he's not orchestrating anything in the first two. So I don't really know what that means unless he just gets another real big episode at the end. But I was going to say, you could have maybe had him on one side, but then he's not a mutant, so that would be weird, because he's not going to, like, lead a brotherhood. He's kind of off on his own, sort of like Apocalypse.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. Yeah. No, I mean, he seems like he could be the big bad. I mean, he's, like, we'll get to it, but, like, he's planning all the big stuff that's happening.
Well, I mean, the big stuff that we get to in the third episode with the Jean Grey clone and all of that.
Yeah.
But with the first two episodes, he hasn't orchestrated anything beyond that. Like, that's all of his own kind of side thing, right?
I feel like they play it like it's like the big stuff that's gonna happen through the season.
But what I'm saying is, he doesn't have anything to do with the Sentinel plot here and the Friends of Humanity and all of that. So, like, there's no Sinister presence in the first two episodes, except that he's in the intro laughing.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. So, this could have easily fallen in the soft reboot trap. And immediately I was impressed with it for going back to first season stuff without feeling like retread of first season.
Yeah.
It's getting us back to brass tacks, but very naturally building on what we'd had from the original show, and also making it, again, pretty easy to jump in and understand what's happening even if you've never seen that. I'm very impressed with the tightrope that it's walking with that.
Yeah.
So Cyclops is carrying the show.
Yes.
And I know a lot of fans are really excited about that because they always felt like he didn't get enough to do in the original show, and that he was a little bit too much of a tightwad, and we make fun of that a lot in the show. Also, the new voice actor, because the original passed away, it sounds perfect.
He sounds perfect. He's really good.
I'm going to go as far as to say even a little bit better, maybe, just because he's got so much like material to work with, and he gets to do a lot more dramatic emoting.
Yeah.
You
no,
know?
I agree. He's really good. And yeah, I mean,
and not to take away from the original,
right?
But he's got a little bit more to work with. So I mean, yeah, it's not fair
Cyclops
or anything.
Cyclops got one.
So that's Ray Chase in this show, and then the original was Norm Spencer. I don't know these voice actors' names real well.
Me neither.
But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Cyclops did not get that much to do in the original, besides being the, like, leader. He, or like kind of leader. He had like one standalone episode, which is one of the best episodes of the show. So I don't know why they didn't give him more.
A little bit more to do. Yeah, I mean, he's at the center of a lot of soap opera stuff with Jean Grey, but he doesn't get a lot of, character building.
Yeah.
So do you think the show goes too far at all with the real in-your-face, like over-the-top 90s stuff, like the shirt that Gambit's wearing and the basketball outfits and all that? Because honestly, I think it's all pretty spot on. I think that stuff could have come right out of that show.
Well, I mean, I don't know why they.
There's so much to talk about. Go ahead.
I don't know why they would not do it, because like then it wouldn't feel at all like it was in the 90s.
Yeah, it's hard to explain what too much of that would look like, but I think you could go too far with it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it does. Again, what I was worried about was that it just wouldn't feel authentic and genuine and of this piece. And it helps that you've got some people that worked on this original show, but everybody that didn't seem to really understand it.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of fun with Morph, and I wasn't expecting Morph in the show until we got the, I was gonna say until we got the intro, or the trailer. I think there was also some merchandise with him already.
Yeah.
So I guess we knew that a while back. It sucks how late this came out. This was months and months late, and there were a ton of pieces of merchandise last year that spoiled a lot of stuff. We already knew about Goblin Queen from pop figures.
Yeah.
Pop figures that, by the way, at GameStop right now, I was just there yesterday at the mall, are on sale. And that episode just dropped Wednesday.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I like the new Jubilee voice a lot. I think she does a great job. The original actress is still in the show. I forget who she's playing, but she decided, apparently this was her idea, that a Chinese American should play it now instead of her, because sensibilities with that have changed.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it would have been fine for her to continue doing it, but I respect it if that's how she feels about it.
Well,
and also, being a lot older, she might not have sounded very good, because we're having that problem with particularly Wolverine and Rogue, although I'm liking her voice more than you are. But
yeah. Well, and I'm just more of a Rogue fan, so...
Well, that's why I made Rogue the thumbnail.
Yeah.
I did it for you, sir.
Yeah.
I have questions between season 5 and this, and it's really cool that we can talk about it on this level, because again, it doesn't feel like it's paving over it. It feels like it's very much the next stuff that would happen, and an extension of it. And they're making, let me say this too, they're making a great case for, there was plenty left to do with this. A lot of the reservation, and I had this too, that folks had with this was, well, that's over and done with, and you can't go back and recreate a good thing, especially, again, social sensibilities are different, and just the way we make things is different now. 25 years later, you really want to come back and try to make this feel like the 90s again? Yeah, they're accomplishing it.
Yeah, I think they are.
As well as could possibly be expected, so that's really impressive. But, yeah, but I do have questions in between seasons, and there's not very much time in between at all. I mean, Xavier just died, and we've just gotten the status quo of humans are starting to accept mutants more. But there's that. I love that question that we have in this episode of, or in especially the next episode, I think, of, is it just a fad?
Yeah.
Can you trust that people have gotten past their bigotry, or is it just in vogue right now to say I've got a human friend? I love all that.
Yeah.
It's real. It's simultaneously thoughtful about the social commentary and the social ideas, and also heavy-handed in all the ways that show was. So I like that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
Questions I have. Just recast Wolverine. I'm sorry. No disrespect to that voice actor, Cal Dodd, but yeah, he doesn't have it anymore.
No, he really doesn't.
It's the same problem that Return of the Cape Crusaders had with Julie Newmar. Except that was more understandable because she's not a voice actress, and it seemed like she just didn't know how to make it sound good.
Yeah.
He's got no excuse.
He was a voice actor.
He sounds kind of generic. It's not just that he sounds different.
Yeah.
It's that the line readings are weird. Some of the choices he's making don't sound very natural to me.
Right. I agree.
Recapping.
Yeah.
We destroyed that one Master Mold facility. Anyway, sorry, so questions I was going to ask.
Yes.
In between seasons, why has Morph decided to wear a mask now?
I think it's something, because he is doing the thing that they do in the comics later in the 2010s. But I don't know why.
What thing?
Because he does actually wear a mask in the comics.
No, I'm just saying, but why here? Why
I don't know,
now?
because, they didn't do that in 97.
I do love how much fun we're having with him. We're in action scenes in particular. He keeps picking mutants that make sense for him to be in those scenes. Now, there are places where I feel like we're playing a little bit fast and loose with, does he just look like that character, or does he have their powers? There's a place in, I think, the third episode, maybe, second or third, where he turns into Colossus and things bounce off him. I'm like, that's not his power.
Right.
I would think that he would still take blasts and they would injure him, right?
Yeah, and also...
Oh, Draven G says it's not a mask.
Well, yeah, it's probably like a face thingy that because he's...
Well, it looks like a mask, but he's... Anyway, he's generating it with his power, but I'm just saying, like, why does his face look different? Because in the third episode, when he's alluding to all the terrible things that Sinister did to him, he very briefly switches back to his old face.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I did.
With the bags under the eyes?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's a question. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
And he also, in I think the third episode, like, pops out Wolverine claws.
Yeah, so then you have the Mystique X-Men 1 problem.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know.
But I'll take it because it's fun. And we're having... we're just getting really creative with all the different mutants we're using. And, again, that could be too gimmicky, but I'm buying it as something he would do. Now, some of the mutants he's picking are characters I don't think we've seen before. Like was Magic ever in the first show? Did she even exist back then? Or is that a more modern... I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure when she came about. I didn't read that character until, I think, like, Jason Aaron's run. Maybe. And she's in... What is it? I forget what book, but there's a... And I actually, I think she's pretty heavily involved in Bendis's run, too, maybe. I forget. I'm not... Crimea River, that's a great line. I'm sure that when we get to it, we'll be talking about something else, and I'll miss it, so I'm going to mention it now. I love the throwaway line that Jubilee has, or maybe she's already said it, about gold balls. So we're so we're referencing things that exist later after the show, but we're mostly adapting from stuff still from this period and before.
Yeah.
Which I really expect, but we occasionally are making allusions and references to later stuff. Yeah. Where she says to the guy that will become Sunspot, you know that's who that is, right?
Yes.
The Hispanic guy, that's Sunspot.
Okay.
And she's like, "Oh, what are your powers?" And she goes through some things. And she's like, "Can you make gold balls come out of your body? That would be weird." That's another Hispanic character.
Okay.
Which I think is why they referenced it. And I don't know, that was fun. That's just for those of us diehards that, you know, have actually read comics and know that stuff. I say diehards. I'm not as big of an X-Men fan as I'd like to be. Like, I don't know as much as I want to. But I got that, and that was pretty great. Yeah. Hey, look, alcohol. I don't know if you would have had that in the original show. Did they go to bars and drink alcohol?
Nah. I knew they went to bars and stuff, and, like, clubs sometimes. Like that sort of stuff.
Because I think the bar that Storm goes to at the end of the third episode is one that we used in the first show.
Yeah.
But I'm not positive. I forget.
No, it's not alcohol. It's apple juice.
AMC Magic is Ileana. Yeah, I just couldn't remember. Is she a New Mutant? Is that what it is? I'm always so all over the place with X-Men because there's so much of it and it's very complicated. Draven G, she's in one episode, I think. Oh, okay. That's cool. Well, that's respectable if... He has to have known these characters from somewhere.
Yeah.
Now he didn't have to necessarily be there, but they've at least got to be in the records at the school or something.
Right.
So anyway, other question with Morph is, why is he a regular member of the team now? Because he wasn't in season 5. So I don't know when that happened.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
I'm not really sure why Bishop is here.
I can't tell you that either.
Was he there in the last episode? I just can't remember. I didn't think he was. AMC. Oh, that's right. She's Colossus' sister. I forgot about that.
Oh, Colossus.
Yeah, no, it's hard to say, isn't it?
I love how she does like the Michael Jackson experience, like lines when she's like doing her fireworks.
You know, nobody around her is minding her using her powers right now. Now, is that because they're not noticing, or because
they don't care?
Mutants are more okay now?
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's not, like, one person that's like, oh, wait a minute, there's a mutant, because you still have Friends of Humanity, you still have... Like, I like that it's not the beginning of Spider-Man 3, where everybody and his dog loves Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
It's like, the political climate has changed, but there are still people on both sides. Mm-hmm. So that's really good. Anyway... Wolverine is hit and miss.
Yeah.
There are places where he's fine.
Yeah.
Somebody said, AMC says, I think Dodd will find it. He can still sound great at conventions. But we're 3 episodes in.
Yeah, he does.
And
he's kind of hit and miss.
What's really gonna I what we really need is a Wolverine-centered episode to just see what he does with that. And I will also say I really respect them for not doing a full-on Wolverine episode yet. 3 episodes in, they don't seem afraid of losing anybody. You know, like Wolverine has always been. I mean, maybe not as much these days, but when you're going back to a thing for the sake of nostalgia. And obviously, that's the main reason something like this would get greenlit. Is just there was a fan base for this. 90s nostalgia has been really in lately. Maybe this is a thing we can sell. And I don't mean to keep making the same point, but a lot of those things come back, like the X-Files revival, which was awful. And I mean, that's not a great example because that's some of the same people working on that show too, including the creator, and he just kind of, lost his mojo. But what often happens is you come back and you make a thing that's superficially that show, but doesn't understand why it was popular, doesn't, get the material. And this, wonderfully didn't have that problem. But you'd think that you'd put Wolverine real front and center in selling it, and because he had a lot to do with the popularity of the show. He's been real in the background so far.
Yeah. That's true.
It's been a lot more about Cyclops. And they're getting a lot of props from fans for putting Cyclops as front and center.
Yeah.
As they have. This, for me, like a lot of people, is just really scratched an itch where I didn't think I needed more of the show. But they've been creative enough in the stories they're telling and in the stuff that they're going back and adapting that show could have adapted but didn't. Where I'm going, okay, fine, I guess I did want more of this. And, this was my X-Men growing up. So, if they're going to get this close...
And I really like how they do... they have more, coherent writing. But, they do those things where Jean Grey just explained what Cerebro just does to Gyrick. He's just it allows me to look into your mind, and that is something that they would have done in the 90s.
It's melodramatic and silly in all the right ways so far.
Yeah.
I think that 3rd episode, at least on my first viewing, I felt like it was pushing that envelope maybe a little too far. I liked it better on a second viewing, though.
Okay. Hopefully I like it better on a second viewing.
We'll see how you feel about that. Oh, yeah. This is cool. So, the 3rd episode actually comes back to this look for Master Mold in another, hallucination dream sequence. And I totally forgot that we saw that already. But when Sinister is... or not Sinister, but when Goblin Queen makes everybody hallucinate, that comes back.
Oh, okay.
This line is weird. Storm says no dismembering, which is great, and then he goes, weight loss. I have no idea what that means. But you said little pieces. That would be... I don't understand Wolverine. I don't know what you're saying. But he would do that kind of thing in the old show all the time, where he would just say things for a one-liner that if you thought about it for 3 seconds, I'm like, wait a minute.
What are you talking about?
Some of this action is just killer.
Yeah.
Some really nice storyboarding in this. I feel like there's a concerted effort with this show for some of the people that worked on the original to come back and go, if we had money and time and weren't held back by censorship, this is what this show would have been like. And I think they're really trying to top themselves because they were very proud of the show and have very often gone on record to say, and I don't agree with this, but we think we're every bit as good as Batman the Animated Series. We just didn't have the budget and the time to be as polished as that show. I think it would be fair to say they're getting a lot closer to that kind of polish with this.
Yeah.
However you might feel about this animation style. And I, from the trailers, was not real excited about what this looked like. Just because it's hard not to be kind of a purist and want it to move like the old show did. It's not just about the character models. They're great. It's just it moves differently. The frame rate's different.
Yeah.
It is... There's the thumbnail I used. but they are, again, authentic but carving out their own thing. So it's working for this. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not minding how it moves.
When you actually
I've
like,
adjusted
watch
to it.
the thing, or like when you actually like watch the show, that it.
So I really thought we were going to have a full-on new Master Mold, and that maybe there was going to be a big subplot through the season about that.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that this totally stands alone. I thought it would have to be a 2-part pilot. And they get a lot done in 33 minutes.
Right. Well, and it helps that it is 33 minutes.
I love this action scene a lot.
It's
you get these really cool, almost like zombie-like sentinels.
Yeah, this is okay. I'm gonna answer your question from before.
Sorry, go ahead.
And say this is the best part of the show. It's
just the scene or or just the action?
The action in general, but mostly the scene.
It's really cool. They really come out swinging. I mentioned social commentary and stuff. The big thing this show had to do to get me on board was put the entertainment up first, and not get, too like pandery about the messaging.
Yeah.
And again, hard tightrope because it is a heavy-handed show in its way. So to some degree it has to do that, but it's got to put the fun up front, and it does that.
Yeah.
Beast jump. I don't know how he does it. It's faster than I would think he'd be able to. But Beast getting in a Sentinel, reprogramming it, and then fighting other Sentinels with it.
Yeah.
It's just badass,
it's
right?
Really cool.
It's so cool. And then Rogue like throwing a Sentinel head.
Yeah. And I like how much we do with Storm in these first couple episodes.
It's like there's just so much effort put into this. It's like they're going, we feel like, and I don't know how true this is, we feel like we have a lot to prove with this.
Yeah.
And we're just going to show you right up front what we're capable of with the animation. And again, with the somewhat more sophisticated writing, too. Is it sometimes a little overwritten, even compared to that show? Yeah. I'm not minding it.
Yeah.
I'm really not. It's kind of that Power Rangers thing where you have to say, like, 4 90s X-Men. Not to disparage that, because there's some great material there. But it's also a really goofy show. Okay.
It is.
So, much has been made of the Gambit charging Wolverine's claws thing.
Yeah.
People debated about it all over the internet after that trailer was dropped. How do you feel about it? Because now that I've watched this twice, I have thoughts.
Okay. I think it's cool as heck, and it doesn't matter if it works or not.
Okay.
I think it's just really cool, and I think the trailer didn't do it enough justice, because it did it even cooler, because he threw his stick at, like, the ground, and he, like, jumped on top of a morph. Like, that's awesome.
So you don't even care if it makes sense?
Right.
Do you feel like the original show was more consistent in how it used its powers?
Yes.
Or do you think that's the kind of thing it would have done?
I think it was more consistent with his powers, and I think this does a lot of like different things with the powers, but I think it does it well because it's a new show, and it really.
But
like,
does it play too fast and loose with them? Because like I said,
little
sometimes
bit.
Morph will do things where I'm like, is that really his powers? Is wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about this. This is more of a question than a criticism. But like in the next episode, we'll see Rogue basically do a Vulcan mind meld with her powers. Can she get information that way? I mean, she gets life force and powers and stuff. Can she touch a person, knock them out, and then like download information like the Matrix, like she does when she delivers Jean Grey's baby? Like, I didn't think she could do that, but maybe. So, I see both sides to, and I won't spend too long on this, but to the charging the claws thing. The issue is how exactly indestructible adamantium works. So, because people's complaint about it is, but that's not how his powers work. He charges up something and then it explodes. That's kind of what it does here, except the claws are indestructible, so what is exploding? Because when the claws make impact with the Sentinel, there's an explosion, but I think the logic on the side of the showmakers is the animanium is indestructible, so it's fine, but what exploded, though? So is it that if it makes contact with another object, just that object explodes, but the animanium is fine? Because what a lot of people have said should happen is the rest of his body explodes. Because, like, the charge would go into the flesh, and then it would blow up.
Yeah, does Wolverine have any control over that?
I wouldn't think he would.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. So I see what they think they're doing, but I don't know that it makes sense.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think it matters.
You don't really care?
Yeah.
Rogue has the goofiest outfit with the with the basketball uniforms. You gotta love when they come into the room. Jean, who we'll find out, of course, is not actually Jean,
right?
Is holding her baby bump.
Yeah,
that's pretty great. So we'll have to do a little bit of speculating because we don't have the whole season yet.
Right.
Do you think there's any funny business going on with the Will, or do you think Xavier really did leave everything to Magneto?
I don't know. I think in the old show, they probably would have done some weird stuff.
Like, is it possible this is duplicitous and he set this up somehow, even though he's trying to, as he says in the next episode, do better and, like fulfill Xavier's wishes? Is it possible both things are true?
I thought that there might be some, like, funny business.
This legitimately shocked me, by the way.
Yeah.
That they do the old credits with the spinning CG characters.
Yeah.
They don't actually make them CG here, but
yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say.
Oh, you were just talking about whether or not Magneto like fudged the Will somehow.
I thought maybe in the first episode, but by the second episode, like it kind of made it a little bit more clear.
You're kind of buying his motives as more altruistic at that point. Brightburn's put in a $2 super chat and says the series was success. I mean, it's still on. It's still going. It's still dropping. They want Spider-Man 98. Yeah, and the talk before this came out was if this was real popular, they were already pretty serious about maybe wanting to do that. If it's of this quality, I'm for it because I didn't think I needed more of this show either. But you have to bring John Semper back. And you have to let him be as weird and out there as he wants to be. That is, in some ways, that's a show I don't really want to sober up and be more, air quotes, sophisticated. Like, if that's going to come back, it needs to be as weird as Semper wants to make it.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a different thing, right? Where this is for a lot of us, and I know people love X-Men Evolution too, but for a lot of us, this is still the definitive X-Men thing, like, at least tonally and visually and stuff. And some of it's just when you grew up and stuff, I suppose. But 90s Spider-Man, while there are definitely fans of that think of that first before they think of anything else, Spectacular eclipsed it for a lot of people. And so it's a different situation. People really want Spectacular to come back. And for a lot of people, it would be disappointing if the 90s show was the show that came back instead of that. Because that show got an actual ending, and Spectacular ended on a cliffhanger. And was the better show.
Okay.
For most of us.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
We'll have to watch that at some point.
I do need to watch it.
I didn't know that. Mikey's watched it.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
he watched that. I didn't know you hadn't seen it.
I haven't seen a frame of that. I don't even know what that show looks like.
It's very simplistic in its art style, and I, like a lot of people, didn't care for it when it first started being advertised. And then when I watched it, it all made sense and came together, and it's
like this show.
It's very good. Yeah, kinda. But anyway, well, we're going to go ahead and go on and watch the next episode, so make sure that you rig that up. And we didn't talk about the title of that last episode, To Me, My X-Men. It's kind of crazy that the original show never used that title.
Yeah.
They're pretty on point with their episode title so far, too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if any of the episode titles are really, like, things that they would do.
You don't think?
I don't think they would do To Me, My X-Men as a title.
I mean, they did titles that were kind of right out of dialogue or, like, real close to things people were saying. So, like, Mutant Liberation Begins, I kind of buy that as an episode title.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was intentional, but something I like about that title is, again, for a lot of fans, this is their X-Men. So your first episode is To Me, My X-Men. Like, the fans got their X-Men back.
Yeah.
It's not a cool title if it's not good, if it doesn't work. But if you nail it, it's cool.
Yeah.
Then again, I don't know if that's intentional or if I'm overthinking it. But
I think it works. I just don't think it is something that they would have done.
You don't think so?
Yeah.
AMC, one of the higher-ups at Marvel Animation, said fans expecting cameos will not be disappointed. Thoughts? Honestly, yeah, thanks for asking that. Because I meant to mention the Daily Bugle newspaper toward the beginning.
Yeah.
I looked closer at it, and it says, is Spider-Man a mutant? On the front page. So I think there's a real good chance that we'll get at least a glimpse of 90s Spider-Man in this, because they're probably already thinking, you know, backdoor spinoff. Which is weird because it wouldn't really be a spinoff. It would be, you know, another season of that show, just like this is with X-Men. Yeah. But you also could, like, reintroduce us to that character through the show. Yeah. So then in its way, it would be a spinoff of the show, if that makes any sense. If they do that, or if they do other crossover characters from Marvel outside of X-Men, and I said this on another show recently, I hope that they don't forget that whole universe of shows.
Yeah.
So I hope they don't reinvent anybody that we had already. Like, if they do a Fantastic Four character, it needs to look like the 1994 Fantastic Four show. Mm-hmm. You know, if they do Hulk, it needs to look like that Hulk, etc. But they can do characters that had never been done before.
Right. Yeah. I think Deadpool would be cool. Obviously, that's what a lot of people want, but I think it would be cool.
I would be curious to see how comedic he is and what the brand of comedy is. Because so far they've done a really good job of getting back in the headspace of the 1990s and trying to go as close to those sensibilities as possible. Mm-hmm. So, like, the way Executioner is handled in this episode, it's more violent than that show could have gone, of course. Right. But it seems about on point to me for what that character might have been like.
Yeah.
So Deadpool, you have to err on the side of Liefeld. You got to go as close to X-Force Deadpool as you can. And or no, Deadpool stuck. Why can't I think of anything right now?
I don't know.
New Mutants is where that starts, but then is he ever on X-Force? I can't even remember anymore. But anyway, you gotta be as close to what his initial appearances were like as you can. And he was always, past that first appearance, a comedic character. But I don't know if you want to go full on fourth wall breaking and all of that. I just don't want him to be too influenced by more recent Deadpool stuff.
Right, that's the problem.
And there is that question of, do you want to see this show adapt more recent things at all? I'm really on the fence about it.
I don't.
No?
No. I don't think it would work, and I don't care. Like, I don't know.
Well, but it's weird to say that when you also haven't read a lot of the material that this is adapting in the first place. You wouldn't even know necessarily.
But But
what I mean is, like, if you can, bear with me for a second. If you can present it the way that show might have done it in the 90s, even though that material didn't exist yet, is it okay to do it, or do you need this to feel purely like what a season 6 of this show would be? Because they're already not exactly doing that, in that they're doing things they couldn't have put on Fox Kids.
Right. That's true.
Like, I'll show you a C-section would have never gotten past standards and practices in 1997. And I like that they're holding themselves back some. They're not going too far with that. They're not, doing a bunch of like really insane vulgar stuff just because they can. Like, they're straddling the fence really nicely on that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have much to say about it.
I don't know how I feel about it. Yeah. Like, I kind of need to see it done. Like, there's a part of me that doesn't want them to do anything past 1997 because the show is X-Men 97 and it's kind of the season 6 of this show.
Right.
But then I might be curious to see how it would handle certain things. And if it was on long enough, and they adapted a lot more of the 70s, 80s, 90s stuff, like, the big thing I want in the show is Onslaught.
Yeah.
I want them to bring Xavier back that way, where it's scary, evil Xavier first. I think there's a real good chance they do that.
Yeah.
It's also possible that a toy got released that I missed and people already know they're doing Onslaught, but I have not heard about that yet, and I'm hoping that happens. But, you get things like, we'll start the next episode here in a second, you get things like the Batman, like, New Adventures comics, or whatever that series is called, I can't remember, the Batman animated series, books that started a few years ago, and I couldn't get into that. They adapted a lot of more recent things, and it just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just because they were adapting stuff that existed past that show. It never felt like that show to me. This does. So I find myself a little more open to it. And then you get things like the 60s Batman comics.
That's what I was going to say.
And I loved it there.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe. And then they can do X-23.
Tom, $2 Super Chat, anything about a season 2, or is it a one-off? Yeah, they're already working on a second season, and that was already in production before this started dropping.
Okay.
So I guess a lot of stuff will happen in 1 year, unless they call each season the next year. But I don't think they'll mess around with the branding like that. I don't think the next season will be called X-Men 98.
I don't want them.
Oh, Adventures Continue, that's what it is. What are you saying?
That's a dumb name. Okay.
Yeah. But you don't...
I don't want them to. Like, I don't want them to mess with the title. It would get too confusing.
Draven G says season 2 is done and season 3 is greenlit. So, hopefully this stays good, because we're going to get a lot more of it.
Yeah.
All right, let's watch the second episode. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. So, like I said, well, first of all, Jason and I got really excited just to see previously on X-Men.
Yeah.
And, of course, you had to expect that, but it was still just fun to see it.
Yeah. And they did it right.
I like that they don't have their actors saying previously on X-Men 97. That is just previously on X-Men.
Yeah.
That's nice. This is maybe a weird point, but it feels like the character they're enjoying animating the most is also Cyclops.
Yeah.
He's just so dynamic and bold, and, like, they just love putting him on screen. Oh, another question. Why between seasons does Storm go with the Mohawk look, besides that's just been really in vogue the last few years to go back to the 80s Mohawk look?
I can't tell you.
In the comics, I can't remember what it is, but there's actually an impetus for her to decide to go to that hairstyle.
Yeah.
We never do that. She just has it.
Here's the intro.
Yep. So you got Magneto. He takes a couple girders and makes them an X.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
And we're slightly changing the intro every episode. I was expecting more dramatic changes between 2 and 3. Because with this, we not only get Magneto at the beginning, but we get the look at Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
Which you and I, again, audibly cheering. So freaking cool.
Oh, and there's the,
Storm with her stick.
Yeah, but it was Storm with the, whatever they're called, the underground people.
The Morlocks.
I hate them, so
which
I can't remember
you
their
booed
name.
when they showed up. But then you cheered when Magneto took them completely out of the show.
Yeah. I did.
So yeah, Magneto's still on the evil side running at Xavier.
I cheered when Asteroid M showed up. Because that's my favorite episode.
Even though he runs the school now. Matthew Bass, because it looks cool. Well, yeah, but it just not a lot of time has passed. So 5 years she's got the same look, and then suddenly she decides to start shaving her head.
She got sad because the professor died.
Oh, is that her mourning?
Yeah.
Mohawk mourning? Now, that actress has not skipped a beat.
Oh, yeah.
She sounds awesome.
She sounds really good.
Let's do a breakdown of that real quick, of any other characters we haven't talked about. Gambit's voice is new.
Is it?
How do you feel about him?
He sounds fine.
Yeah, he's not exactly the same, but it's close enough.
It's close enough. And I think they went, like, with a, like, closer... I don't know. Like a closer sounding Cajun accent.
Oh, AMC, I didn't know that. He said there's also a JLU sequel comic called JL Infinity. I'm not keeping up with current comics right now, so I didn't realize that. And he says he's heard good things about that. Yeah, I didn't know any other DCAU stuff was happening in comics, which makes Batman Beyond even more awkward, because we made that mainline continuity and now we're actually doing DCAU stuff. AMC says again the original actor is in the show though. Oh, for Gambit, yeah, they've done a little bit of that where they're bringing people back, but not necessarily for the voices they used to do. And I'm sorry, I know AMC doesn't agree with this, but they should have done that with Wolverine too. So Jason was really worried about the Morlocks. He was like, "Oh no, it's a Morlock episode," but it's not though.
Well, no, I was just like, "Oh no, the Morlocks exist." I forgot about that. I skipped the Morlock episodes because I don't like them.
I don't really care for them either. I love how complex, at least for this show, Magneto is. This is some of the most I've ever liked this character.
Yeah.
Like I love the way he's written through this, and it was wonderfully unpredictable. I keep waiting for that turn where he just can't help himself but turn against the X-Men team and go against Magneto's dream, even though he's trying to do what Xavier wants. I love the choice of his sighing and having a difficult time saying the word coexist.
Yeah.
He does that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Beast quotes are pretty on point.
Yeah. That was really cool. When he was like, or that was funny when
Bishop talking about the future.
Like, I was.
So that's real suspicious when Rogue is very excited about Magneto maybe turning over a new leaf, and everybody's like, "Why are you so trusting of him?
What is going on?" Like,
it is setting up this really weird romance thing with them. And at first I thought that it was just hinting at it.
Or something.
And after watching it again, it is very clear that's what we're doing. Or at least, if it turns out to be something else, I'll be real surprised. In the 3rd episode, you have this hallucination thing where they're together, where Gambit or somebody, because we're doing sort of a love triangle maybe, where Gambit or somebody is like terrified that they're actually getting together, and they do that really creepy like intertwining thing. It's like real icky. But then it feels like more than hints to it. Like Morph and Wolverine are talking about it in, I think, the next episode, where it seems like they at least think that's what's happening when they're going into the danger room together. So maybe they're trying to throw the audience off. I'm not sure. Yeah. The big question is, what is Magneto talking about when he's saying that there's something in Rogue's past that she's not telling the team about? And we're supposed to think that it's a romance with the two of them.
Yeah.
But is it actually? The more I'm talking about it, the more I'm second-guessing it now. So we're supposed to think that's what it is.
I just think it's really weird. Like, why would they Like, is that a comic thing, or if it's not, why did they think of that?
Somebody in the comments said that it was.
Okay.
And again, I was not aware of that.
But why did anyone think of that?
Because Claremont goes to crazy places with his characters. But I do really like the character parallel that they make between them. In that wonderfully written, maybe the best written scene in this episode, when they're in the office together later, talking about her sordid past.
I mean, the best writing in this episode and the whole show is Magneto's speech, but
Yeah, it's killer.
it's really good.
The big thing that will stick with me maybe forever from this, and this is good enough, I can say there are things that are really sticking with me, and one of them is that line he has about how vast the world is, but we make it small. I love that line.
Yeah.
It's just the most sympathetic this character has ever been to me. And at least on screen. And Magneto, in the comics, goes on again, off again all the time now between good guy and bad guy. He's with the X-Men, he's against the X-Men, he's with the X-Men again. So like this is been there and done that territory in comics, but feels real fresh and a shocking development and change in status quo for this show. There was a weird slowdown with the frame rate there. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That was a pretty obvious line. You knew she was going to say that.
Yeah.
Do you like the foreshadowing there? Where Storm says, "I've always wondered what it would be like to be human." Then 15 minutes later, she's going to lose her powers.
Yeah.
It seems like a natural place for her to go in that scene, though. So I kind of like that. And that's some decent writing. Draven G, Rogue and Magneto were married in the Age of Apocalypse timeline. That's right. I forgot all about that. Roboters 100. Captain Jayson would love a mutant massacre just for the Morlock purge. I didn't know about that. I've never read that.
I gotta read that.
Folks, let us know if you can see us right now. We disconnected at some point and completely missed it. And I just had to hit streaming again. So that's rough. And I hate that because I don't want to have to try to repeat all the stuff I just said, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah, please let us know if you can see us right now. It says we're connected again. Okay, everybody says they can see us now. Well, Jason, we missed a few minutes there.
That's okay.
I don't want to start the episode over or anything.
Right.
But we talked about some things that I wish got recorded that didn't.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. Anyway. What were we talking about? Maybe I can just
talking about
do
Magneto.
real quick cliff notes.
And
Oh, and status quo, and so my big question is, will Magneto? Oh, okay. Tom says we froze at like 9 minutes in. Do you want to stop everything and go back? Well, Matthew Base, we've got the clock going right now so everybody can sync up with us. Oh, that's frustrating.
yeah.
Do you want to just keep going?
I want to just keep going.
Okay. I'll just say the big point I made that you guys all missed is I'm wondering if you're going to have constant status quo shifts where it's really unpredictable all the way through the whole series, because we know we're going to have at least 3 seasons of this, or if we have sort of a soft reboot in that the new status quo is Magneto is our Xavier. But this whole this whole time I really expected Magneto to have a big switch and not be able to help himself, and I was really surprised that we went to Trial of Magneto and all of that, which is also comic book.
Yeah. This was hilarious.
Why would you go to Apocalypse? I mean, I guess he shows up a lot, but like,
yeah.
You'd think Wolverine would have gone to Sabretooth if he was going to say somebody random.
Yeah.
Over Apocalypse? I like the irony of, you know, you've got this love triangle forever with Wolverine and Jean and Cyclops, and he's the one that has to take her to the hospital.
Yeah.
That's maybe the obvious thing to do, but in a good way. I like that. Do you buy the idea that you'd have hospitals that just wouldn't deliver mutants?
Yeah.
I think I do, especially in this world. I would think that the mutant issue is like big enough in the public consciousness that hospitals, if they're not going to help mutants, would have signage up about it.
Yeah.
You know, I would think that it would be like, you know, civil rights in the 60s with segregation.
Yeah.
But I do buy, even with the public at large being more okay with mutants right now, you would still have that. And there was a practical issue. Like, this doctor is a total jerk face kind of dirtbag.
Yeah.
But the practical issue of, but sometimes they can't control their powers. We're at risk. We're liable. You know, our staff might get hurt. You know, all of that. It's an understandable issue. And then you have the freedom versus security issue of, you don't want to treat mutants like they're not humans, but how far do you go before you're putting humans more at risk than mutants? Which is different than extermination, as Magneto talks about at the end. How excited did you get about him turning into Deathstrike?
Yeah, that was awesome. And then he turned into Psylocke.
Did you... Jason's a big Psylocke fan. Did you have that...
Wait, why did he morph her swords?
So that we could see her with swords? Yeah, that's the thing we're not supposed to overthink. But I don't understand it. I also like Magneto's broken visor. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love the way Storm takes charge here.
Yeah.
All of these politicians are really funny.
Yeah.
Or I should say, like, the judge and... Yeah. So that's the edgiest line in these so far.
Yeah.
I'll show you a C-section. And I do like his line delivery there.
Yeah, he does.
He does a great job with that.
The way he said that. Wait, what am I even saying?
So
Stupid.
Simultaneously, it's as silly as that show ever was, and a little edgier and pushing envelopes that show would not have been able to push. You're seeing them do a lot of stuff that they might have wanted to do on TV, on Fox Kids, and could not have gotten away with.
Yeah.
So over and over again, Magneto is in a situation where I get surprised by ultimately what his plan is and what he chooses to do. It's like you keep thinking that he's just going to straight up murder humans or just take all the mutants away or something. And he takes them all the way almost to space, and he saves them.
That's a good line.
I don't know how I feel about that line. The shock of good conduct. Get it? Because it's a good conductor of electricity. Okay. That's maybe a line they would have had back then. I like the choral music. By the way, this whole soundtrack's really good. And I like the choral music as Magneto is lifting everybody. But it's kind of a throwback to Ottman with X2. It's the first place where I feel for a minute like I'm watching a different X-Men thing. And where it's informed by things that were made after that show. Roboters, Morph is a pretty powerful shapeshifter and can manifest weapons, but they're brittle, like when he manifested Wolverine's claws in the original.
Does he do that in the original?
I didn't remember that. See, I wondered if that was a thing he could do.
Okay.
Which means that his powers are inherently different from Mystique's. Right? Because I think she can only do flesh, generally. I mean, not next one, but... And again, for this material, it is legitimately sad when Storm loses her powers. And I love her reaction when she finds out it might be permanent at the end. It's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But at least she doesn't get thrown in a box. You know, it's probably better if you're Aurora to lose your powers than have to deal with tight spaces.
Yeah, that is a good episode. I really like that episode.
I will make a snowstorm.
I will make us. Do not be afraid. I will make a snowstorm. That is a good. That's a good episode. That's one of the best season 1 episodes, I think.
And as overwritten as the speech is, maybe I could listen to this guy speechify all day long.
Yeah.
You know, Magneto for president. Just because I want to see him run, you know. This new voice actor for him is also quite fantastic.
Yeah, he's great.
Professor X is a little off.
Oh,
He's only spoken a couple times so far because he's dead.
Yeah.
But,
the tears are great.
Yeah. Again, some pretty clear social commentary with Executioner, with his complaints about how like regular people also deal with problems, but he goes, my problem with mutants is that they keep whining about it, and like it's sort of the oppression Olympics thing that he's talking about, and there's a grain of truth to that sometimes, but it's not a one-to-one comparison, so it's not fair to pretend like just because regular people do have real problems, and sure, of course they do, that mutants don't have or aren't like a special case and aren't dealing with something that, like, you know, non-powered humans can possibly appreciate and understand, because they're not dealing with potential genocide. And at the very least, a lot of regular people just looking at them differently. So I mean, X-Men has always been a metaphor for racism, but that's a metaphor for specifically like particular races that have a like common kind of oppression that they all have to deal with that the rest of us could never appreciate because we didn't grow up with that. So they're dealing with an aspect of it that maybe the original show didn't really touch too much. And that's the way that the show talks about real current issues while still handling it the way that we might have in the 90s. Like, apparently Morph in the show is supposedly thinks of himself as non-binary, but that term is never going to be brought up in the show because it wasn't popular in the 90s.
Right.
People weren't talking about it like that. And that's an interesting idea with his character, I suppose.
Yeah.
Especially if it's just there and we don't... And we only explore it in like his powers and how he operates and stuff, like using it as a metaphor for that. I don't mind that. That looks like a pinball machine. I'm sorry, what?
Is that maybe why they did like I know it's not a mask, but like the mask type thing?
So that he looks more androgynous?
Yeah.
Maybe so. Oh, also, he hasn't skipped a beat either. We have the original Beast voice actor.
Yeah.
He sounds maybe a little bit older, but
He sounded a little bit off when I first heard him, but he's good.
Beast has to look through his microscope a lot.
He does.
He does that 2 episodes in a row. Now, I get why Storm feels the need to leave here, but whenever this kind of thing happens in X-Men where somebody loses their powers and then immediately they're thought of as not a mutant anymore, I always question it a little bit. Because her powers are suppressed, but her chemical makeup is still the same. So even if she's never able to use her powers again, she is still technically a mutant and one of them. Now, she wouldn't be able to be an X-Man in going out on the field anymore.
Well, but I don't know. X-Men always leave. Like,
that's true.
It's just a thing that they do in that original show a lot. So I was really excited when they.
I wonder how Magneto feels about it. Like, would he treat her the same way he does Mystique in X3 when he says you're not one of us anymore?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't make her leave. This is a choice she makes for herself. But when he's sort of trying to turn over a new leaf, yeah, what is happening in this scene? Because it looks like full-on romance, but then we just cut away. So we don't really know how far we're going with that. I like that we've not forgotten that Wolverine and Morph were really close friends.
Yeah.
They're almost a duo in this show. What is it about Magneto's powers that allow him and Rogue to sort of touch?
I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
Is it that he makes like an electrical field between them that works almost like a force field or something?
Maybe.
Now, don't get me wrong about what I said earlier. Storm always looks cool with a mohawk.
Yeah.
Like, I think like a lot of people, that's my favorite Storm look. I just wonder why she went with that. Because it's much more of an 80s look than a 90s look.
Yeah.
I like the X-Baby blanket. I kind of want to get one for Autumn.
Yeah.
Tom put in a $5 super chat and says, in the X2 novel, Mystique, it's mentioned that she can change bones and similar, but doesn't like to because it's painful and harder on her. Okay, but again, I think that's made up for that. Like, I don't think that was a comic book thing. Or like that in this show. I just love how soap opera this cliffhanger is.
Yeah.
So the clone gene thing is right out of the comics. I never read that stuff. So I was just peripherally aware of like Goblin Queen and all of that. When you've got more of a background in Spider-Man, it feels like Clone Saga. And kind of funny that also the name Goblin is in it. Like, everything sounds like a Spider-Man thing retroactively.
Yeah.
Senior sticks, he can protect himself and has a lot of power. Yeah, but that doesn't explain specifically how he does it.
Yeah, that doesn't... Yeah.
Like, with Magneto and Rogue, specifically. Well, sorry we lost 5 minutes in there, guys. Was there anything, Jason, that you can think of that we were talking about there that we need to rehash now? The big thing was that status quo idea I brought up.
Yeah.
It's just the question of how soft rebooty this ultimately is. Because I said earlier, I appreciate that it isn't, like, just about the nostalgia and rehashing all the big story points and visual things that you remember from the show. Like, it's really not doing too much of that.
It's not.
It goes back to a couple of the big things from season 1 again and just sort of resetting the board, but it's not like a Jurassic World thing or something. And so I'm just wondering if we keep, like, changing the regular status quo, or if again, Magneto is our Xavier for several seasons.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and go on to the third episode now. And I should say, get past the Disney original logo and into the proper timestamp 0. Jason, you doing okay? You look like you're kind of fading a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you need to take a quick break, or can we...
No, we can do it.
Go ahead and blow through this?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. And I know you have a lot of questions about... like future and time travel and all that.
Yeah.
So we'll have to get into all that stuff.
Especially with the end of this episode.
Because I know, let me say this real quick before we start. I know right away you were a little bit disappointed that we didn't open with more cosmic stuff, because you like more of the super science and the space stuff and the cosmic stuff than you like the more grounded, like, human versus mutant stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that stuff, but I don't know, they've kind of done it too much. I don't know.
But you have to look at this from the perspective of the show's been off the air for decades.
Right.
And so getting back to the basic ideas, like restating the thesis, like what is the show about, right. I really appreciate that. And we still went into some new territory with it too, where it wasn't just rehashing and restating.
Well, and that's also just how I felt when I first watched it. Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I just don't like that stuff as much.
Well, and it seems like we're gradually getting into the crazier stuff as we go. So we start with really 2 episodes that are a little bit more grounded and about the mutant human, peace question. And then the very next episode we get into mad science. So I'm wondering if we'll have 2 episodes in a row that are more in a Earth-based but like super science place, and if we start to get to more like space or time travel or something after that. And given that we just introduced Forge at the end of this, it's possible at episode 4 we immediately do like yet another scary future we have to pave over or something. Because I feel like we're foreshadowing some of that with Bishop, where he's like, oh wait, there's things happening here that are definitely not in my future.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a question as to why that is, or if we're just paving over based on what happened the last time we changed the scary future timeline at the end of season 4.
Yeah.
With the big 4-parter that was supposed to be the end of that show. Isn't that so weird? And then it gets another season, and now we're back again.
Yeah. Well, no, that show out of season 5? I don't remember that.
It did. The only thing that matters, though, is that last episode.
Yeah. It's the only thing that matters.
All right, folks. Timestamp 0. Make sure you're watching the 3rd episode. It is... What is this episode called?
Fire Made Flesh.
Fire Made Flesh. That sounds like an X-Men title.
It does.
All right, here we go, everybody. Everybody, please press play right now. Previously on X-Men. Now, was it Jean saying that? Or was it her clone?
No, it was Jean. Well, no, I mean, it was her clone.
So what I love about this, and like I said, I had a much better second viewing of this. I love the question of how long we've been dealing with the clone. Mm-hmm. We know for sure, obviously, because we saw it on screen in this show, that the clone delivered the baby. So we know who the mother of Nathan Summers of Cable. So, some folks might not have realized that was Cable until it becomes, more and more evident as we go along. But we know for sure that the clone is the mother. We don't even know if it was the real Jean or the clone that was the Phoenix. And I think that's going to come back.
Yeah.
Because that question is raised in this.
It
It's
is,
like,
yeah.
was it even me or you that was the Phoenix? And neither of them know.
Yeah.
The Madeline Pryor name at the end is like a little shoved in. I don't know why she thought of that. She's like, call me, I don't know, Madeline Pryor, because that's what I'm called in the comics.
Yeah, it's kind of... Okay, I need to see what's different here.
Spot the difference. Well, one thing I can tell you is Storm's not in here.
Well, true, yeah.
They took her out because they're trying to make
That's
you
a
think that
different
she's out
shade
of
of
the show
purple
now.
for Gambit.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's a new shot.
That's a new shot. That's not new. Oh! They did that guy in the...
Sunspot.
Oh, and the... Okay, that's cool.
And then they showed you Lilandra. Or something from space. Was it Lilandra? We got like a second and a half. I wasn't sure what it was, but... What's cool?
The Bishop?
That same shot's in the last one too.
It
The spinning bishop.
I didn't think it was.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the last one too.
Okay.
It might even be in the first one. I can't remember, but it was definitely the second one.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really cool that they had like whatever that guy's name was, the Hispanic guy, like in the
Sunspot.
yeah.
Roboter is making Bishop future days of future past with future forage was a choice, and present forage runs X Factor. Look at more previously on X-Men. So the way we reintroduce Sinister is a little weird.
Yeah.
Because everybody sort of talks about him like they don't really know who he is, even though there's also a lot of discussion about how they've dealt with him before. It's just really weird the way he's introduced. Like, when Beast says his name but doesn't say his name, I don't really understand that.
Yeah.
When he's like, oh, it can only come from someone that is Sinister, which is, like, maybe a dramatic thing that show would have done, but I don't know, it reads weird to me.
Yeah.
I like the explanation about like with sort of like biological carbon dating or like human carbon dating for why Beast is able to tell that one of them is a clone. Because they both have the exact chemical makeup, but one is clearly newer. Like that's actually a believable explanation. It doesn't seem technobabbly at all.
I don't like this writing here.
Okay, what about it?
I don't think she would have acted like that. Like I don't think she would act like that. It makes it feel like she knows that she's a clone, but she doesn't.
I guess I don't understand.
Like the writing makes it feel like a clone trying to that like knows it's a clone, trying to persuade them into thinking that she's the actual clone. But the problem is she doesn't.
No, I don't think it's that. I think it's that the evidence seems indisputable and she's panicking. We're like, okay, if Beast is right, I'm a clone. That I just learned this, and my husband's not even siding with me. Like, no, that reaction is believable. I'm actually not sure how I feel about Cyclops being completely silent in that moment. That's more of what I'm questioning.
True.
I do like this conversation where she's worried that Cyclops will, like, take the baby away from her and won't even see her as the mother.
Yeah.
John Kelling, I always took her acting this way as denial. Me too. I actually buy that okay. And, like, she goes evil pretty quick, but then Sinister's also, got his hand on it.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, this episode moves a little quick for my taste. Like, even having 33 minutes... Well, I say 33 minutes. I guess that's the runtime with Disney Plus's irritating extra credits at the end, so it's more like 28 or whatever. But anyway, even with a longer runtime, then you got on TV with commercials. This might have needed, this I think kind of needed 2 parts.
Yeah.
I appreciate how much each of these episodes is getting done, but this one feels a little bit too convoluted and plotty
And
to
it
not
feels
have
rushed.
to not have a few more minutes.
My stars and garters.
A man so dark and twisted, he can only be described as sinister. And I'm like,
Why
why
say
didn't
that?
you just say, I know who did it, y'all? It was Mr. Sinister. I'm sure his voice is different now. It doesn't sound quite the same. We're still modulating it, or putting an effect on it like we used to, which is cool. And I like him talking through the baby monitor. I don't understand how he does it, but I like it. So let me ask you a question. Is the idea that Sinister manipulated their whole relationship to get her pregnant? Because, man, that's pretty screwed up.
Yeah, I don't think they would have done this in the original show.
Now, I will say, in the original show, the way he is manipulating Jean and Scott in the first place is already pretty screwed up. You know, even like for 90s cartoon standards. But yeah, I don't know if they could have gone this far. It really feels like maybe a story they wanted to do that they couldn't do back then. Because everything feels really unfinished with Sinister.
Yeah.
And then you get to season 5, and we have a chance to maybe finally wrap some things up with him, and all they give us is that not very good origin episode.
What was the point of that?
Well, I mean, the point is to tell us, like, how far back he goes, and that he's a scientist, and that he's not a mutant, and all of that. Like, I appreciate the information. I think the execution is kind of god-awful.
Yeah.
Some people love that episode. With respect, I think it's really dreadful. And I also didn't understand why we get it when we get it. It's just kind of tacked in.
Yeah.
But I am glad that we talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Before this came out. Because this goes back specifically, directly to that.
More like fell asleep.
So there is an arc in Claremont's run called Inferno. And I don't know if that's where this material is. But she makes a really big deal out of the word Inferno. And that makes me think that might be the arc where the Madeline Pryor stuff happens. But I'm not sure. Again, I'm sure somebody can tell me. Yeah, so they're making fun of Gambit because they think that Rogue might be already sleeping with Magneto. I'm pretty sure it's what's happening here. Roboter says that is Inferno. Oh, good! I got it right. I nailed it. I knew that's why she did that. Well, and also her big like fire plume and everything with that big kind of money shot she's got there. I think that's one of the covers.
Oh.
I want to finally do a deep dive with all that stuff. I thought about even doing like X-Men, like page by page or issue by issue. And I just don't know if I could commit the time to do it as streams, but because I'm wanting to do that with Ninja Turtles also, IDW. This is a special kind of creepy.
Yeah, I think this stuff maybe goes a bit too far.
I don't think it does. I mean, it's stuff that you couldn't again put on TV back then, but it's not like full on rated R. It's not disgusting. Like,
Right.
They're still holding back enough in my mind.
Yeah.
And I like that it's actually kind of scary. You know, there's some real nightmarish imagery here. Yeah, I love the creepy Xavier face. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I also like that all of these hallucinations are specific enough to these characters. Is that Shard?
Yeah.
Like, isn't it nice that they know their stuff and this all... Like, is there anything so far in these 3 episodes that feels just contradictory to what you remember from the original show?
Not really.
Like, does it all... Like, forgetting lines you don't like, or readings, or even story points, like, it all fits in the continuity, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's the face of Bo! What is the face of Bo doing in X-Men? AMC, I kind of like that episode, but Charlie's ancestor was a tad on the nose. It's not just on the nose, it's preposterous that he's there. And that he has exactly Xavier's philosophy before Xavier. Yeah, they're in hell, because it's Inferno!
Yeah.
Now I just want to read that arc. That's a good question, Beast. I'm glad that you're asking logical questions while it looks like you're all in hell.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
You're all gonna die.
AMC Young Justice seasons 3 and 4 decidedly do not hold back this much. Yeah, I've heard that. Where it kind of just gets, or people felt like anyway, it just gets kind of self-indulgent. Because you don't want it to get so adult and vulgar and violent that it feels like mean-spirited or cynical or something.
And this stuff's really cool. Like, they don't do that much in the show. I don't know if they do it at all.
Where Bishop's power doesn't feel lame.
Right. Like, they actually make it cool.
Yeah, well, you know why that works? Because it isn't Gambit.
Well...
Because if Gambit did it, then you wonder if he would just explode.
And what's really funny is, you always say that that's lame, but there are, like, multiple mutants with that power.
I don't care, it's
like,
a lame power.
Yeah, it does.
If you were a mutant in 1850, you'd never know you were a mutant.
Right. Like, because doesn't Shaw
You had to get
that
struck
too?
by lightning before you knew that. Yeah,
Isn't
Shaw
that Shaw's
kind of also has that.
Like, that's also Shaw's power.
I think Shaw's is a little bit more powerful than that.
At least in this show, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
All of that imagery is awesome. Like, I love all this nightmare stuff. And again, I'm a broken record, but it feels authentic enough to that show, but just going a little further. Yeah, it's pretty. The animation is awesome. Oh, say my name. It's Madeline Pryor. Oh. I like how over the top this is. So what does Goblin Queen mean? I've never understood that even in comics, and I haven't read that stuff.
Yeah, what does that
So
even mean?
maybe
what
it
does that
makes
have to do with anything.
Yeah, maybe it makes more sense there, but like, why the word goblin? What does that have to do with anything? Tom, $5 super chat. It's like the acid trip from hell, just the right level of disturbing. Great show tonight, Cap and J-Man. He's calling you J-Man.
Oh.
That's your name now.
Oh.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate you, man. That is indeed what that is like. Acid trip from hell. Butters 100. Oh, is that where it is? I'm sorry. Where is it?
This stuff's really cool.
Yeah, when he goes back to his old Morpheus.
Yeah, that line's really cool.
It feels like he says I should know in case you're not familiar with that show and you don't know why that's the character that's given that exposition. Because he's just telling us all Sinister's origin. And if you haven't seen the show, you're going to be like, why does Morph know all of that? And some other people in this room don't know that.
No, yeah. I mean, some people in this room don't know. I think this is really cool. Because, I mean, that first Sinister episode in the original show, where he does the thing to morph, like, it's pretty messed up.
It's really messed up. This kind of volatile relationship with Cyclops and Magneto is handled really well. Where, like, gradually Cyclops is kind of begrudgingly trusting him more and more. So the point where he almost leaves, finally, when he and Jean, before she finds out she's a clone, are wanting to go live a relatively normal life. And he's not going to in the first place because he doesn't trust Magneto. And then Magneto has that opportunity to, kill all those people at the courthouse. And he takes the high road. Which, again, I was blindsided by. Oh, do you like this new Magneto costume?
I do, yeah. It's pretty cool.
You know what I like about Magneto having a giant M? Because it stands for Magneto and mutant. Because he's all about mutant superiority. He's got a giant M on him. It kind of works both ways. Roboters says that the place where Sinister gets his origin in the comics is Further Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix. I own that, and I've never read it. But I didn't know that's where that came from.
The female morph suit is just weird.
Wow, I love how melodramatic that is. Magneto doesn't talk with his hands quite as much in this as he did in the original, but he still does it a little bit. You still got this. That's pretty great. The setting is cool. Oh, this new Jean voice is the one that felt like the most of a departure from the original. And that's not a real caricaturable voice, right? So it would be hard to do a perfect version of that.
Right.
She won me over with her Goblin Queen laugh.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's very
exactly
close.
what that would sound like in that show.
It sounds very close to the Phoenix laugh.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, she's very creepy.
I just wanted her on screen a little longer.
Yeah, she's not there enough.
She's there just long enough to go, look at me, I'm a supervillain, and then to become good again at the end and kind of do the Ben Reilly thing.
Yeah.
AMC, so much happier they decided on this X-Man Magneto costume over the all-white 2010s one. Yeah, and I like that costume, but I still can't decide how I feel about going to things that recent. Now, I don't know where this costume's from, or if they kind of invented it. I feel like it's a throwback to something, if not directly pulling from... I'm not sure about it. Oh, I didn't know that. AMC says the Jean voice in this is the same from Wolverine and the X-Men.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
I actually forgot about that.
Now, somebody in the comments tell me if I'm right about this. I'm pretty sure when the clone thing happens in the comics, you don't already have a Jean there. Because that's like how they bring her back for a minute. Because she's supposed to be, dead after Phoenix Saga. But this inexplicably just brings her back in. And so now we're doing this story anyway, even though it's not to bring her back in. I'm pretty sure that's right. See, were you, though? We don't actually know that.
Yeah. They actually animated the clock right this time.
And now I'm just getting X3 flashbacks. when Xavier goes to her house for the first time. I'm pretty sure there's at least an image or two of this flashback in the original show. Because isn't the thing with the car crash with her sister?
Maybe.
Isn't that in the show?
I can't remember.
I had kind of I remember this shot, and I had kind of a flashback of that today when I was watching this a second. I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure that's actually out of that show. I like that a lot better than she's than X3. She's just kind of scary and evil, and Xavier has to diminish that personality. AMC, Madeline Pryor meets Mary Scott when Jean is still considered dead following the Phoenix Saga. That's what I thought. So the only big difference here is that you have a Jean there already, and we play it kind of like Clone Saga with the which one is the real one question. This is a creepy image too. John Kelly, the Jean clone was Madeline Pryor from the get-go. Scott had a life with Madeline after Jean seemingly died after the Dark Phoenix stuff. Do you mean in the show? Because they play it like it's a mystery as to when exactly the swap happened.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, he means in the comics.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure I'm getting what he's saying though. I like the way Jean, like, it happens a little too fast. Like, I'm with you, it's rushed.
Yeah.
But I do like the way she kind of brings the Goblin Queen out of this, and she becomes Madeline Pryor.
Yeah.
With the argument of is it really all about power? Like you've lost yourself. Like you're not just a supervillain. Like, don't you remember you and Scott like created this life, and you're a human being, and this was the most important thing to you. And I like all of that. Sinister was always one of my favorite things about the original show when I was a kid. That he's just such a creepy design. Always really stuck with me. And so it's a lot of fun to see that again. He doesn't feel pale enough to me. I don't know if I'm right about that. Like, I gotta go back and look at the old show, but
I think
maybe it's alright.
Yeah. If he is not as pale, I just don't think it would really work.
That quote he just did feels 100% like a thing he would have said in that in the original show. The Ladybird. Okay, is this the phalanx virus? Or so it looks related to that. Or is that what it is? God, I gotta brush up on my X-Men.
Me too. I need to finally read some X-Men.
But this like technovirus is very familiar to me, and I'm not sure exactly what it's from.
Anything.
John Kelling, what this episode does is literally make it a soap opera. Yeah, exactly. The Jean clone is literally the evil clone trope from a stereotypical soap opera, and the X-Men are nothing if not a soap opera. No, I love it in this context. And that's the big thing it brings to it that's different from how it's been handled before, is just the double Jean thing. Okay, so I didn't care for this scene on first watch. It works better a second time.
Yeah.
But there's this assumption that everybody in the scene is making that I wasn't at first, where I was kind of confused, where he's like, I can't have my child feel abandoned. And I'm like, what's the issue? You're just going to take him to the future, cure him, and then bring him back. Like, that's what I thought the plan was. And, of course, I get that he's got to be Cable, and it's not going to work out that way. But I thought what they were planning on doing was just send him to the future with Bishop, and the Bishop would find a time machine and send him back.
Right.
But the assumption from the beginning seems to be he's going to be brought up there to cure him, and I don't really understand that. I don't really understand the assumptions they're making about what will happen when they send him to the future.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Where Cyclops is like, "Oh, you need a future without us in it," and I'm like, "Why?" Like, so automatically sending him to the future saves him, and he can't come back because he's. I don't understand that. I thought the idea was just they would have technology in the future that could cure him, and we know that Forge is always there somewhere with a time machine that Bishop could use. Why is that the assumption?
I don't know.
John Kelling, techno-organic virus. I forget if it actually has a name, but yeah, it's Cable's techno-virus. And then Senior Stick says it turns him into a living robot. So I guess they don't cure him. Yeah, see, we don't know who is the Phoenix. We don't know which of us married Scott. I think that's really fun and very, very soap opera.
Mm-hmm.
This is the single most disturbing thing if you're Scott. This should really mess him up.
How did she come up with that so quickly?
Yeah, I guess she's been thinking about it. Is Pryor supposed to be a cute name? It's like something before.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Before what?
Yeah, I mean, one of them came before the other one, but we don't really know which one, so...
Yeah, so...
Well, no, I mean, that's not true. We know which one is the real one, but we don't know when the switch happened.
So with
I
the
don't know.
Forge thing here...
Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense. Never mind. Forget what I just said.
So with the Forge thing here...
Yeah.
I don't know... I don't remember or know... I don't know if it's talked about in the show, because all I really know for X-Men is is that original show. That's where I get...
You're not alone. A lot of
X-Men
people have that.
knowledge from.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if he's from the future or if he was... Like, if he was, like... Went to the future, but I don't think he was.
I'm fuzzy on that, too.
He was... But, like, he looks really young here.
Somebody said he runs... What is it, X-Force or X-Factor?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well then that means that he's just really old in the future. But like it's...
But or he could have been sent to the future at some point. I'm fuzzy on this point as well. I don't know very much about Forge at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
John Kelly, the implication is that it's not a guarantee, but the baby just has a better chance at surviving in the future. They just don't talk about it like that. They talk about it like they're going to send him there hoping to find a cure. I thought that's what they said. And then it's like, why don't you then hope that they'll find a cure and then be able to bring him back to the past? Because Bishop doesn't even seem that concerned with trying to preserve his own timeline, because it always sucks and he's always trying to make it better. So like from Bishop's perspective, our timeline is the present, because he's like, the future is malleable. It just keeps changing. And he's got to get back to his time, but he's fine with it being different, I guess. So that wouldn't even be a reason not to do that.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening when we inevitably do more future stuff.
Yeah.
But right now it kind of reads like working backwards from a conclusion where in the comics he's in the future, so we have to get him there somehow. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how that's handled in the comics either, because I know that's retconned somewhere.
Yeah.
Like Cable being Nathaniel Summers, I think is retcon somewhere.
Yeah, it is. At least that's what I read.
Robota's Forge is in the present, but was on the main roster X teams. Forge, if you notice, has his limbs still. Okay, good call.
Oh, true.
But don't we see him in like the far flung future at some point, where it's like, 100 years or more later? I can't remember. It all runs together to me. There's a place in one of those future episodes in the original show where it's like a ridiculously, maybe it's more than 100. It's like a ridiculous number of like what the year
He's
is.
always there.
And I thought he was still there in that, but maybe not. I have to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
It all runs together for me. I cannot keep my X-Men straight. I'm really bad at it.
Yeah. I gotta just read X-Men and then it'll all be clear.
Yeah. We should do it together.
I'll read through I'll read, like, starting from that Claremont era and then going through the 90s.
John, I had the same thing. He says, Scott, I won't abandon my son. Also, Scott leaves. After he says that, the very next thing he does is because he goes, I'll have no part of this, and he leaves. And I'm like, what you just said? But all right.
That's true.
It's really funny. But yeah, I thought that was the weakest of the three on first viewing. I think they're all pretty on par now, except the story's just a little rushed in that third episode.
Yeah.
But I love that we get kind of three different styles of episodes. I mean, we're, again, the kind of stakes and the main issues we're dealing with are kind of the same between the first two episodes. But they're paced a little differently. They feel like kind of different kinds of episodes in their way. One's a lot more action driven than the other one.
Yeah.
More politics in the second episode.
Yeah.
Than the first, certainly.
I think the second episode is the best episode.
I think it is too. Well, that Magneto speech is killer.
Yeah, it is.
But the first episode probably has the best action scene.
It does.
Although Magneto almost going to space is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But as far as like an actual fight, that Sentinel fight is nuts. It's so good. But then you get all the really weird stuff in this episode. And I love that in an earnest way they're able to go about as weird as that first show did. Because boy, it gets bonkers. And I just think like anything is possible now. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
For the rest of it. What are we getting, 8 or 10?
I think it's 8.
I thought it was 8.
Yeah, I think it's 8.
But yeah, this is all holding up really well on repeat viewings.
Yeah.
I'm digging it. It's better than it has any right to be. Like I didn't think there was any chance I would be enjoying this as much as I am, or that I would feel like it was something that was really that worthwhile. I was hoping it would be fun, but like now I'm in a place where I feel like it's really adding stuff.
Yeah.
Where if they weren't making more seasons, it would feel like they're making sure not to waste the one they're getting. Like, that's what it feels like, is we don't know if we're going to get any more. We're going to finally do all the stuff we should have done the first time around. That's what I feel like. It just feels like making up for lost time, and it's awesome. I also hope that we get some original material from some of the talent that is working on this, or with at least the same kind of earnestness, where you put the entertainment up, up front, like I said, and you just adapt some cool comic stories. It doesn't need to all be throwback. Like, as much as I'm liking this, I want the lessons that Marvel learns from this to not just be, oh, we need to go back and revive every show.
Right.
That's not what I want. Because what the original show gave us that a lot of things aren't right now is a reverence for comics and these old stories.
Yeah.
And so let's go back to some of that with some new original material. And I want the MCU to learn from that as well.
Yeah.
It won't, is my fear. I'm afraid that the lesson all across the board that like Feige and those guys are going to take from this is all anybody cares about is nostalgia.
Yeah.
This is not good simply because it brings back one of my favorite things and does it well.
Yeah.
It's good because it's good.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does.
like it is in, and maybe it's easier as an extension of that show to do this, but it's doing a lot of the things that I'm missing in MCU.
Yeah.
You know, weird comic stuff, taking risks in putting not the most popular characters front and center sometimes.
Yeah.
And just adapting some of these stories. That's the lesson that needs to be learned from this.
Yeah.
It's not just because of nostalgia for old 90s stuff that this is gonna be the most popular thing that Marvel has had in a while. I don't think, because a lot of people are talking about it that didn't watch that show. So anyway, that's my soapbox about this. But I know you're getting tired, so
I am. Yeah.
we should go ahead and wrap up. But did that all hold up okay for you?
Yeah,
Finally watching it again.
Yeah, it did.
We gotta wait 5 days for the next one. I have not looked into like episode title or what the next one is because I want to be surprised by it. But
yeah, I know. I knew kind of what this episode was about just because I get like clips and stuff in my feed like the day before it comes out.
Yeah, because you said something about like the X Mansion coming alive, which isn't exactly what happens, but
it's what they kind of played it up to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like from just like a clip, it felt like it was going to be like a Voyager episode or something.
Where the ship is attacking us?
Yeah.
The ship that we live on is attacking us?
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We
Yeah.
sure appreciate it. We will be back again next week with lots more fun stuff here on Geekvolution. I don't know if we're going to stream any more this weekend. We may do something on Sunday, but it's Easter.
Yeah.
So we were talking about maybe doing a collection video that day, but I'm not sure if we will. And then
Collection of eggs.
as far as X-Men goes, next Wednesday, if all goes according to plan, Austin and I are gonna do an overview review of the first season of Legion. We're finally gonna watch through some of that show. You should watch some of that with me because it's really good what I've seen of it. Although it's pretty creepy and kind of adult, but I think you could probably handle it. I don't know. If anybody thinks Jason at almost 14 shouldn't watch Legion, let me know. We're going to get going. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan, and that was Jason, and you guys are great. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for the interaction and support with Super Chats. Folks that did that, I'm Xavier Magneto right now. We'll see you later. Bye, folks.